guys, and welcome back to another episode of Change Wired Podcast. The podcast for change agents of all shapes and shades, not satisfied with status quo and just killing the time, but totally committed to squeezing all the juice from this life experience, feeling like a superhero on some hidden quest, conquering the world, conquering villains, unlocking more superpowers, treasure chest, and helping everyone who they meet along the way. Today, guys, I'm joined by one of the world's most influential minds in gamification, Yu-Kai Chou. You might know him as the creator of the popular Catalysis framework, the author of Actionable Gamification, with subtitle Beyond Points, Badges, and Leaderboards, Unlock the Secrets of Gamification and Drive Engagement like never before. Yu-Kai is also the author of 10,000 Hours of Play, with subtitle Unlock Your Real Life Legendary Success. Yu-Kai also is a consultant who's helped organizations like Google, Tesla, and the World Bank to tap into the power of human motivation to achieve desired business results, making people the happiest they've ever been. In this episode, guys, we explore how to design life and work so you actually want to do what needs to be done. Whether it's writing a book, adopting new behaviors, changing your habits at scale or one by one, or driving billion-dollar business results. Yu-Kai unpacks in this episode the 8 core drives of behavior that allows us to learn how to push our own buttons and also perhaps push buttons of other people to get more done with less stress, less pressure, but enjoying the process more. If you've ever wondered how to turn discipline into delight and transform your to-do list into a game you can't wait to play, this is your episode. So let's dive in. Before we jump into recording of our podcast, Yu-Kai, can you tell our listeners why they should care about gamification in the first place? Like, why does it matter?
Yeah, I think gamification is important because I think that's the ideal world where the things that you need to do are the things you want to do, so that people don't feel like they need all the suffering and hard work to do productive things that are benefiting for their life. They just do what they love doing anyway. They can't even stop themselves from doing it, and their life automatically becomes better. So I think that is a great future where there's joy and there's productivity that's connected together. So that's the world I aim to achieve.
Yeah, that's such a great vision, because we always say like, well, I want to do these things and I know I have to do those things, but somehow I just don't do them, or they're hard or boring or a combination of those, right? So, yes, hopefully people will get ideas, insights, strategies, how to have more fun doing things that they need to get done, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You are Yu-Kai. You are like, I'm even a little bit nervous. You like the gamification guy, guru, someone who was at the very beginning, I think, of the whole movement. But how did you start there? Like before gamification, where were you and how did you land on gamification as your career and what you do for a living?
Yeah, so before gamification, I was a nerdy student, and this was 22 years ago. And I played games very heavily. And I play games where I spent thousands of hours making my characters in my games more powerful, more strong. They have a lot of gold, they have a lot of gear, a lot of skills. And then at one point, I had an epiphany, and I realized that, I spent all this time making my in-game characters great, but in the real world, I was the same loser. So I should really try to play games that make my real life better, that improve myself in the real world. So then everything I did in my real life, I saw it as a game. So it allowed me to become pretty strong at almost everything I was doing, because before I would do the bare minimum to get my acceptable results and then stop and go play games. And when I saw everything as my game, of course, you don't do the bare minimum, you do the best you can. So I started doing very well at most of the things. And I started my first company a year after in 2004. And that continued to build into all these different, very amazing journeys in the gamification world.
Yeah, life as a game. I always think of life as the best game ever because you can actually see it, like, and touch the results of your play. If you play well, obviously. Can you give listeners a little bit more details about your personal journey? Like you mentioned, you started using gamification in real life, and so you got better at a lot of things. Can you maybe share a couple of examples so listeners can really relate to like how they maybe can use it?
Yeah, so I mean, keep in mind I was still a student. I was finishing high school at the time, so I was still very young in 2003. And
Mhm.
so, but I started to see everything as more enjoyable. So before, when I studied in classes, I would just try to get an acceptable grade, like maybe exactly at 90% if I could, because that's an A, 98% is an A too,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. So I thought it's stupid to get 98%. It's better to get 90%. But then I started seeing, okay, all this stuff is skills that I can level up that can help me in my later game. So I just actually became curious. I enjoyed learning and studying. And so I became a 98% student. But I also started to
Mm.
write string quartet music. I started writing a Chinese novel. I became a strong competitor in debate. I did forensic speech and I got into state competitions and swimming. So everything I did became a game that I was trying to become a top player in. So that did really well. And then that got me into UCLA as my college, so a fairly prestigious university.
Yeah.
Even though my grades before that was just kind of mediocre, my gamified life allowed me to get into a good university. But once I got into UCLA, I was looking for my next big game to play in life, and that became starting a company. So I think not a lot of people do it, but in my first year in college, I started my first company. And it wasn't because I had this big ambition of becoming, very wealthy. It was just the most fun to do. It seemed to be more like a game. Because if you think about it, a game is that you have an objective, you have an obstacle, and you have your current resources, right? And your goal is to
Yeah.
use your current resources, overcome the obstacle, and achieve the objective. And that's actually more like challenges we face in real life and work and business, as opposed to what we learn in school, which is memorize a bunch of information and then regurgitate it on a piece of paper, right? And
Yeah.
so I thought the starting a business was like a strategy game where you can decide what's the product you want to sell, what's the pricing, what's the customer service. It was just a lot of fun, so I did it out of pure fun, and so it led to another business. So when I graduated college, I just never, because I already convinced some of my other friends who had full-time jobs that graduated college to quit their jobs to join my company, be part of this game together. I didn't have it in myself to say, go find a normal job myself. So I just continued being an entrepreneur. But then over the years, again, a lot of my startups were related to gamification. It was a social network that helps at the time younger Gen Ys to use game design to develop their careers and how have big companies use gaming to recruit better talents. And
Hmm.
that was rated a top 10 social network for Gen Ys by Mashable at the time. We did one of the earliest online leaderboards for social media back then when Twitter just came out. We started ranking who were the most influential people in social media in different categories. We did gamified loyalty programs for brick and mortar stores like
Hmm.
restaurants and retail stores. So that was the journey all the way from 2004 to 2012. And between raised over $1 million for my startups. But 2012 was an interesting transitional period where I stepped down as a CEO of my previous startup called Reward Me, and that was the year I got married
Hmm.
too. So I thought, okay, what should I be doing now? And then I decided I wanted to write a lot of things I've learned over the past 9 years in my gamification journey. So I formulated a framework called the Octalysis framework, and it's the
Yeah.
combination between the words octagon and analysis. And I put it on my blog, yukaishow.com. And that's where my own reputation took off because a lot of people resonated with it. And it was organically translated into 16 different languages in the first year. And then I got a lot of opportunity to speak at Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Oxford, Tesla, Google IDEO. I did a lot of consulting work, and that led to impacting over 1.5 billion user experiences. And then, I wrote a book called Actionable Gamification about the framework. And so
Yeah.
lot of things happened. And then up to now, 2025, I published my second book called 10,000 Hours of Play. So
Yes, that your books is how I found you, and then I like research, and you have like your own Wikipedia page and TED Talk, and just a lot of things. I'm like, how did I not know about this person? Working also with human motivation a lot. But you know what I wanted to ask you? Like you developed this whole framework, catalysis, and it has many levels and human core drives. I'm curious, how did you come up with that? Was it like learning some of the basics and then, I don't know, testing things out and then putting it together? Like, how did it come to be a catalysis framework? Yeah, as a framework.
Yeah, so the Octalysis framework, as its name, it's based on an octagon and has 8 core drives that motivate all our behavior. So everything we do in our lives are based on at least one of these 8 core drives. So if none of them are there, there's zero motivation. There's no behavior. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as your question is, how did I formulate that? So it's interesting because it started off with just being curious with some of the games I was playing, like Diablo. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, this new big game that was very popular was Farmville. And my mother at the time, who really didn't like technology, didn't like games, that she always said those were bad influences of society. She really got into Farmville. And I looked at the game and I was really confused because the game was totally different from all the games I was playing. It made her very almost stressed. Sometimes she has to wake up at 5 a.m. to clean up her crops, and there was not a lot of action and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, what are all the aspects that make these games interesting and fun? And I also noticed that there are many games that are copycats of successful games, and they have the same game elements. They have the points, the badges, the leaderboards, the Easter eggs, but they are complete
Mm-hmm.
failures. So I also thought there is a more subtle element that made games more enjoyable. It's not just having game elements in them, right? And game mechanics. So I did a study about what are the commonalities of the successful games, even though they're from Farmville to Diablo, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the differences between the same genre, the same copycat, but one successful, one not successful. So I started jotting down notes, and I have some early blog posts about, hey, this is what I noticed, this is what I noticed, this is what I noticed. And you can see some of the early blog posts were maybe 70-80% of the completed Octalysis framework. And then I started studying a lot more psychology, behavioral science kind of books
Mm-hmm.
to understand these principles more. And eventually it finalized into what we call these 8 core drives plus one hidden core drive.
Yes. It sounds like a journey, an
Mhm.
epic journey. Um, I want to ask though a little bit more about practicality, like your personal usage of gamification in your life. Let's say you have a goal, maybe you have one right now. How do you apply this methodology and what you learned about gamification to achieve like that goal, or maybe
Mhm.
build certain, I don't know, habit, behavior, and make progress?
Yeah, I can tell you how I use gamification to motivate myself to finish my book because, I'm not a
Yeah.
full-time author. I'm running 3 businesses and, I have 3 kids. And so writing a book is always those things that are important, but very low urgency. Everything else, if
Yeah.
I'm 3 weeks behind, some will be upset, some will push me, or there's some negative consequence. A book, if I don't finish it in 5 years, no one's going to say anything. Right? 10 years doesn't matter. So, which is why it's so hard for working people to publish their books. So I had to use my
Yeah.
own gamification strategies to motivate me. So at the beginning, when I was writing my first book, I used what we call a black hat motivation strategy. And
Mhm.
so I haven't explained it yet, but among the Octalysis framework, there's what we call white hat versus black hat strategies, and left brain, which is extrinsic motivation strategies, and right brain, which is intrinsic motivation strategies. So without going into all the details, the difference between white hat and black hat is white hat makes you feel powerful and control and you feel good. but there's no urgency, so you procrastinate. So if you do it, you feel happy, but you don't really get to it. Whereas black hat motivation makes you feel more urgent, obsessed, sometimes addicted. But because you don't feel like you're in control of your own behavior, sometimes it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, or it could lead to your burnout. So at the beginning, I used a black hat strategy to motivate myself. So I had a physical workshop 7 months later, and I put in the workshop material, and it's like $1,000 per person, right? That, hey, if you attend this workshop, I will give you a signed copy of my upcoming book, Actionable Gamification, right? And I'm like, okay, well, look, I've already put it in the marketing. People maybe paid the $1,000 because of this. So I had to work. Oh, and let me also describe the challenge I faced, because usually on my day-to-day, I had to be working on my client projects, design, I'm answering emails, and I would work. And I would get to a point, a milestone, right? It's like, okay, I got this done. Oh, let me take a break. And so usually in this break time is when I should say, okay, let me do the things that are not urgent. Let me write my book. But, usually at that time, I'm like, okay, well, I already worked so hard to get to this point. Let me go take a walk. Let me just hang around. Let me play some games. And then after I do that, now that should be the time I start writing my book. But that's when the emails start coming in again, more project, more crisis to solve. And then so I never actually get to my book, right? And so when I use this black hat strategy, I was stressed and nervous to write it, because I wanted to, because it's core job 8, loss and avoidance. Yeah. So basically I was really prioritizing my book, and I spent hours and hours and hours a day just pushing everything out to the side and writing my book, even to the point where some of my client work was a little bit like deprioritized, and I was behind on some of those things, but I worked more hours than I ever did to focus on that. However, there was one point where I realized, okay, it was impossible for me to finish the book on time, because I can't just finish the book. There's the editing process, the publishing process, so it's impossible that I give the book in the workshop. So I felt, okay, then I guess I just have to tell them, I'm sorry, I didn't get to finish it. Give me your address and I'll mail it to you afterwards, right? So once I got to that point, all the consequence of black hat design happened, which is I completely burned out. I didn't want to touch my book at all, right? So it's like, okay, I don't want to touch it, but and I just try to catch up with all my other things for maybe like a month. So then I switched my strategy to a more sustainable white hat strategy. So, and what it is, it relies on what we call first core drive 7, unpredictability and curiosity. So this is more intrinsic black hat, but basically, whenever I get to a milestone, it's like, okay, I'm going to take a break. I want to go play a game, right? But wait, I'm going to read the last chapter or last paragraph I wrote in my book. I'm not going to read the entire chapter that I wrote, because that's too much friction, too much work. I'm not going to write a new paragraph. I'm just going to read the last paragraph and see what I wrote, because most people, they don't even remember easily what they ate for breakfast, right? So it's like, did I write something good or bad? I'm not sure. So I'm like, okay, let's read the last paragraph. And that last paragraph, because I was intrinsically motivated by the creativity, I look at it and it makes me want to write the next one, start writing. And then it's like, oh, okay, I've written so much. Now I really want to take a break. Let me go play a game. It's like, oh no, the client emails came again and I have to do my work. And I do a lot of that. And I'm like, okay, now I finally reach another, I really want to take a break. I'm really tired now. Oh, wait, before I take a break, I have to read the last paragraph. And I read the last paragraph and I start writing again. And I remember at the time I was living with my mother-in-law. She was living with us, I guess. And I was complaining to her. I'm like, I'm so angry because I never get to play a game. I'm constantly writing my book when I have a break. And so this is what we call good gamification design, because it doesn't rely on my discipline. I couldn't help myself. I had to keep writing my book. And that was how I finished writing my book.
Oh, that's a good question came to my head right now. I always hear this phrase, don't rely on motivation because it's so unreliable. You need to build discipline. So what do you have to say about this saying?
No, I think it's the opposite. I think if you have motivation, you don't need discipline. Like, you don't need motivation to play your favorite game, or you don't need discipline to play your favorite game. You need discipline to stop playing your favorite game, right? So if your game is the thing you should be doing, like writing your book, then you only need discipline to stop yourself from writing your book. So, but also very importantly, when something becomes a habit, then you don't need motivation, right? Again, you don't need
Yeah.
motivation to do a habit. You need motivation to stop doing a habit. So I think
Yeah.
discipline is the bottom of the barrel. That's the lowest level. Like if you don't have
Yeah.
anything else, you work hard, you grind, you bite your teeth, right? But as you know, that's not as sustainable. If you are practicing, let's say your violins, you're practicing playing the violin, but you hate it. You're grinding your teeth for 3 hours a day, and then 100 other kids, they love it. They just like to play 10 hours a day, and they don't even want to stop after 10 hours. You're going to lose to them in the long run, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of using discipline, you want to design your environment, design the task so it's actually fun and enjoyable to do. And if you keep doing it, then it becomes a habit and you don't even think about it. You'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, I so agree with you on this one. For me, discipline is like, well, in order to have discipline, you still have to have motivation. I also look from that perspective, right? You can't just have discipline for no specific reason, and that's why you kind of want to think about your motivations, your drivers first before thinking
Yeah.
about any discipline. And
Yeah.
you're so right. Yeah, did you want to end something?
Yeah. The issue is some people have initial motivation to want to do something,
Yeah,
and then the rest of it, they have to rely on discipline, you know.
yeah,
But the key thing about good design is you design for motivation throughout the entire journey. Every step of the
yeah,
way, you're motivated, you're enjoying the process, you want to do it, as opposed to, oh, I want to go to the gym more. And that's the
yeah.
motivation on step one. But for the rest of it, you use discipline. That's not what we want to do. We want to have
Yeah.
continuous motivation.
I guess, yeah, it's learning how to design for motivation so it is continuous. And I always like to use the phrase learning how to push your own buttons. So you actually want to do the things that you need to get done. Such a great example, you guys.
That's
Thank you so much.
that that's actually a great analogy. I've never thought of it, but it's like there is a remote control to control yourself as a robot, right? And isn't it worth a lot to be able to have that remote control yourself better? Because if you don't, it's actually other people who has that remote control, right?
Yeah,
The marketers, the policymakers, the people who create the game rules around you. Those are the people that are making you do the things that you're doing because they're the ones that understand the behavioral science. They're the people that
yeah,
understand the game designs. And so I think it's important that you learn it so you can design things for yourself and you can defend against other people trying to influence you in the way you
exactly.
don't like.
Yeah, and that's actually, what I meant. You push your own buttons instead of other people and the world pushing your buttons and leading you necessarily not to where you want to go. Because sometimes also like we have our, people around us, whether that's family, friends, or our work, which do certain things, and then we either, blow up or like do stuff that we later regret. Well, what if you learn how to actually use yourself, like push those buttons, play your own instrument, so you do you take the actions that you don't regret, but instead like proud of. Right. So again, thank you. Such a great example that illustrates how you can use your different like drivers and motivators to get yourself to do what you want to do in the first place. And you started speaking about core drives, white, black. Um, Had techniques. Can you give listeners a little bit more details? Like, what are those eight core drivers, and then the ninth one that is hidden, and a little bit more
All right.
detail on the framework.
All right. So obviously each core drive, there are eight of them. So, if we take a few minutes for each of them, it takes up a lot of time, but I'll go through what they are in maybe a
Yeah.
one-liner. So the core drive one is epic meaning and calling, which is basically you're doing something for something bigger than yourself. Like in a game, you're always saving the world, right? Something bigger than
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So this deals with things like sustainability, helping the poor, honor, faith, religion, all those things that are bigger. And you're motivating people with those kind of concepts. That's core drive one. Core drive
Mm-hmm.
two is development accomplishment. So that's like you're improving yourself, you're leveling up, you're achieving mastery. And so that's like points and badges inside of a game where you see yourself improving and you're getting better, and that motivates you. Core drive three is empowerment of creativity and feedback. So that's the idea of using our creativity, seeing feedback and adjusting. So it deals with things like meaningful choices, self-expression, autonomy, strategy. Core drive 4 is ownership and possession, which is the idea that if we believe we own something, we want to improve it, we want to protect it, and we want to get more of it. So this deals with things like collecting things or organizing our environments to the way we like, and growing more attachment to these things that we created ourselves. Core drive 5 is social influence and relatedness. So this is what you do based on what everyone else does, think, or says. So there's like competition, collaboration, social appreciation, and gifting. Then we have core drive 6, which is scarcity and impatience, which is the idea that we want something we can't have, or it's very difficult to obtain. So basically, if someone says, "Hey, please invite all your friends," you don't care. But if they say you have, 3 exclusive invite tickets, then you suddenly go out and see who are you, try to lure people, impress people that you have these special VIP tickets, right? So by limiting the activity or making it more difficult, suddenly you create desire in people. When you say you're not allowed to go outside, suddenly people want to go outside. But if you say, "Please go outside," they're like, "No, I want to stay on my computer all day long." Core drive 7 is unpredictability and curiosity. So this is basically saying, because we don't know what's going to happen next, we're always thinking about it. So this is heavily utilized in the gambling industry. But whenever you have a sweepstakes program, a Easter egg, a lottery, raffle ticket program, you have this core drive. And also it's about satisfying our curiosity when we want to finish a book or a movie. Core drive 8 is loss and avoidance. It's the most straightforward one. You're doing something to avoid a negative consequence, a result. It's the fear core drive. You don't want to be punished. And so it's what, it creates immediate effect, but people don't feel great about it. So those are the 8 core drives of the Octalysis framework. And the unique thing about them, and why the framework is so well known, is number one, like I said, everything we do is based on those 8 core drives, plus the one that I'll mention soon, one hidden core drive called sensation. But also based on where it's on the octagon, it has different natures to it. So we already mentioned the top core drives, 1, 2, 3, epic, meaning, calling, development, accomplishment, empowerment, creative feedback. Those are white hat motivation core drives. And then they make people feel powerful, in control. They feel good, but no urgency. The bottom ones, which are 6, 7, 8, scarcity, unpredictability, and loss and avoidance. Those are black hat core drives, and they make people feel urgent, obsessed, even addicted. But in the long run, it could leave a bad taste in their mouths. And the reason why we feel we're not in control is those core drives deal with our survival instincts, avoiding danger, going after scarce resources, and exploring new land, things like that. Now, what I haven't mentioned is the left side versus right side. The left side, we call them left brain core drives. It doesn't necessarily mean it's geographically on the left versus right. That's being debated upon. But what we care about is it represents symbolically basically our logical brain on the left side and our emotional brain on the right side. And since this is a design tool, I like it. It's easy to remember. Left side, left brain, logical. Right side, right brain, emotional. But the actionable part about it is the left brain core drives deal with extrinsic motivation, things you do for a reward, a purpose, or a goal, but you don't necessarily enjoy the activity itself. So once you obtain the reward, you hit your goals or get used to the reward, it becomes stale. You stop doing the activity. Whereas the right brain core drives, again, deal with intrinsic motivation. These are things that we just enjoy doing to the point that we're even willing to spend money just to experience it. So even if we lost all our progress the next day, like we lose our certificates, our badges, our NFTs, our status, we would still do the activity today because that's how we measure our quality of lives, how much time we just spend on things we enjoy doing. So basically the framework not only describes all human behavior and helps you design for it, also knows the consequence is a long-term, short-term, intrinsic, extrinsic. A quick example is if you look at the right bottom of the 8 octagon, that's core drive 7, again, unpredictability and curiosity. It's on the right bottom, so it's right brain, intrinsic, and it's black hat. So what that's like, it means your brain enjoys it, but you feel out of control. So that is like you wanting to go to bed at 10 p.m., that's your plan, but then you binge watch Netflix till 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Your brain still enjoyed it. You love watching those shows. It's fun, but you feel out of control. So it later leaves you a little bit feeling a little guilty, right? So that's how you look at octalysis. So those 8 core drives are all psychological core drives. But then we have, in my book, I describe a 9th hidden core drive, which is called sensation. And
Mm-hmm.
sensation is just the physical feeling, the pleasure that you obtain from something. So like getting a massage as a reward, or this is why some people like Japanese food over Italian food. They just taste better to them. So there are some experiences that have sensation, like some game controllers do the vibration, or
Yeah.
you get some touch as a feedback mechanic. But most of our work is in those psychological eight core drives. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
even for sensation, we know that most of them are powered by the psychological eight core drive. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, like even for the food you eat, there's a lot of studies that show what food we like connects to certain emotional memories that we have. Like some people like spaghetti as a comfort food because it reminds them of them when they were small, their mothers preparing spaghetti to comfort them, kind of food. Some people eat sushi because to them it's there's the scarcity, which is core drive six, about, oh, this is high
Yeah.
end and whatnot. Or so how what the food represents is still the eight core drives. And even something as, you could say, physical sensation as, sexual activity, if there's not this type of social connectivity and appreciation, there's not this curiosity. Sometimes it also, people don't enjoy that, which is what happens in some dysfunctional marriages, right? The physical
Yeah.
sensation is, it should always be the same, but the psychological core drive behind it actually determines if it's enjoyable or not.
Stronger.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I guess, everyone has like different settings in terms of what drives them stronger. Right? Like some people can be, as they say, like more extrinsically motivated. Some are more intrinsically, and some, like for me, for example, epic meaning, I would say it's like number one. You can mention the rest doesn't matter. For somebody, it's social influence, maybe like relationships. Um, would you say like there is, I don't know, one or a combination that seem to be the strongest for humans in general, like in your practice?
Yeah, so I would say that, again, these eight core drives motivate all human beings from different cultures, from different demographics. It's just like everyone wants to feel competent and everyone wants to feel appreciated, right? No one likes to feel incompetent and
Yeah.
unappreciated. If someone actively wants to feel incompetent and unappreciated, I'm pretty sure in every culture that's seen as a psychological disease. Now, but like you said, you're absolutely correct. There are different tendencies of different types of people. Some people are definitely more driven by making a difference in the world. Some people are more driven by looking good in front of others, like status,
Mm-hmm.
or they just like adventures. They don't want any of that
Mm-hmm.
pressure. They just want to explore. So in our work, we do create two by two player types. So basically
Mm-hmm.
four different player types for each project that we do, and we evaluate what core drives motivate them more than
Yeah.
others. I would say when we do design, if we had no understanding at all about this group and we just take default what might motivate them, I would say it's usually always core drive 5 and 8 as a baseline,
Mm.
which is social influence and relatedness, and core drive 8 loss and
Yeah.
avoidance. So these are
Okay.
people who you would say are not motivated about life. They just want to sit there and watch TV all day long and do nothing. So if they're like that, basically the two things they do is they'll do something if all their friends are doing it. And then two is they'll do something to avoid a negative punishment, like they're going to get kicked out of the house now if they don't
Yeah.
find it, if they don't go find a job, right, or whatnot. So those are the most reliable baseline core drives. If you don't know anything else about them, but of course you know people, them like, okay, they would actually be more driven if you give them more meaningful choices and ways to express their creativity, or they'll be more driven if you actually show them everything they did is tracked and it builds up into something, as
Yeah.
opposed to they're going in circles, right? And so
Yeah.
so we would take all that in consideration and design experience for people.
Yeah, it makes me think of all the popular like social media platforms or different services. They are often designed around core drives 5 and 8. Uh, and that's probably why, and that's how they get traction with so many people. You started speaking about how yeah, design experiences for other companies or your clients. And I want to transition into your work in organizations and with some companies. A lot of as I understand that, gamification, like one of the core aspects of it is to drive engagement with activities that drive desired results. And obviously, if you look at business world, corporate world, that's what a lot of companies trying to do. How do we engage people more with the activities that grow our bottom line and create the impact, the vision that we want to see? Um, what kind of use cases, I guess, companies or problems companies come to you with trying to or figuring out if the gamification is right for them, and also how do you help them to use it to drive certain meaningful KPIs?
Yeah. So basically, in my line of work, as long as you can define a player type and his desired action, we can improve that by whatever margin is realistic. So, and this is important. It has to be, we want these type of people to do this type of activity. If
Mm-hmm.
someone comes to me and they say, "Hey, Yu-Kai, we're in the healthcare industry. How can we use gamification to solve our problems?" I wouldn't know because I'm not an expert in the healthcare industry, and there's no player type and there's no desired action. It's almost like someone saying, "How do we solve world hunger?" Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? No
Yeah.
desired action. But if they said, "Oh, well, how do you get Americans to donate food to third world countries every day?" Or how to get people in third world countries to have better sanitation, wash their food every morning, that I can work
Mm-hmm.
on because it has a desired
Mm-hmm.
action. So, and of course that still gives you a lot of working space to come up with different
Yeah.
challenges. So our projects go from like motivating blue collar workers in the largest steel manufacturer in the world to work more
Mm-hmm.
safely, so to avoid injuries and work better with the white collar workers, to get people to work more creatively in organization, to dealing with uncertainty and change, to motivating sales teams to help each other, to getting kindergartners to eat healthily, to getting customers to want to interact with the brand every day. So
Yeah.
it's kind of across the board. And of course, we have a variety of case studies that over the years we're able to get permission to share some of the details and numbers. But it describes these kind of like usually they're either motivating employees or motivating customers. And
Customers. Yeah.
sometimes it's about motivating like oneself. Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say that you use some sort of combination of, I don't know, environment design, workflow design, if some technology? How do you usually implement? Like, let's say I'm a company and I'm rolling out AI and I want everyone to use AI. How would you help us to motivate people to incorporate more AI technologies into their workflow,
Yeah.
replacing what they used to do?
Yeah, that's an actually really good question, and there's different dimensions to that answer. The first one is that these eight-core psychological or eight-core drives can come in all sorts of mediums and channels. So
Hmm.
you could deliver a feeling of unpredictability in an epic meeting calling via an email communication, right? But
Yeah.
you can also do it through, you can deliver social influence through some company policies about cheering your coworkers up, right? You can
Hmm.
do it through a lot of our work is through software because software is more dynamic in the feedback
Yeah.
mechanics. It's easier to deliver those eight core drives. When we work with middle school classrooms, a lot of time it's like little posters on the wall, little board games. Maybe the teacher can
Hmm.
show a video as a rewarding Wednesday to celebrate. But the key is that those eight core jobs can come in many different ways. It could just be the manager talking, a trainer talking, and telling you how important you are. So it just depends on what the client has already. And
Yeah.
one of the things is important is the solution depends on who the client is, right? Let's say you want to
Yeah.
improve working conditions at a factory in Africa,
Hmm.
right? Well,
Hmm.
depending on who you are, the design has to be different, right? Are you the head of the factory? Are you the minister of labor in the company in the country? Are you just a good-hearted person in Europe who wants to make a difference and you can maybe like write letters, right?
Hmm.
What can you do? What are the levers you can use to bring those eight core drives? So that's uh,
Yeah.
the key thing where most people think gamification is a technology, but it's actually a design philosophy that can be
Hmm.
integrated in all sorts of experiences. Like we've done hotels and malls also. And we have little physical passports that you go and you stamp and it'll give you status for rewards, right? It's all there. Now, when companies come to us, we have a 5-step design process, which the first step is just defining all the components. What are the business metrics you want to improve? Who are you targeting, your player types? What are the desired actions? What are the feedback mechanics and triggers? What are the rewards, incentives? And then the next step is a brainstorming process where we usually come up with over 100 ideas based on these 8 core drives. How can we drive those desired actions with more epic meaning and calling? How about development accomplishment? How about empowerment, creative feedback? So we have those 100 ideas. And then step 3, we would try to boil down those 100 ideas into, okay, these are the 9 ideas that will make it into version 1. And then these other 5 will be version 2 and then version 3. And then we create a game loop about how all these ideas connect together. So a analogy I give is that just because you have all the moving parts of an animal doesn't mean you have a living, breathing animal. It could be the legs here, the head there, and the lungs there, just a splash of flesh. It has to come together in a elegant way, in the right way, to become a living, breathing, flying animal, right? And so many companies say, oh, well, we want gamification, so let's have some Easter eggs and badges. But they have to have the right relationship in the experience to actually be a good thing. So that's where the game loop comes in. And then we do what we call a battle plan spreadsheet, which is define all the math, the details, the scaling. If there's a leveling up, how fast do people level up? If they do an activity, how much research did they gain? If there's a drip email newsletter campaign, what's email 1, what's email 3, what's email 7? So we'll detail all the details. And then the final step is either the UX UI wireframes, the experience, or the storyboarding if there's no software. So usually we'll deliver that full experience, and then the goal is every step of the way we're driving that desired behavior.
Yeah, it's a lot of details. I like when I work with companies, I often see that they think it's like, it's like you said, we're gonna have some points, some badges, like leaderboards here, and everyone will be happy and do what we think, they should do. But you kind of have to really think through the whole system. And then probably there is a lot of like testing and seeing what actually brings the result that you want. Because I bet there is no company, no collective, no human is the same, and you ultimately need to test what's going to work for them.
Yeah, and this is like I said, every game already has these game elements, but most games don't connect them all together very well, so it falls apart.
Yeah. While we're talking about gamification and all these techniques and motivating people, making people do certain behaviors, there's this like thought in my mind. Well, isn't that manipulation? Like, what are your thoughts around ethics, gamification, manipulation? Like, what's the difference? And can gamification backfire? What do you do to test that it has the positive outcomes, but not the negative?
Yeah, I actually have a section in my book, and it became a blog post. It is called Gamification, Ethics, and Manipulation, based on the exact words you mentioned. So if your audience wants to check out more, you can Google that article and check out. But I would say, so first of all, yes, I do think, as some people mentioned, gamification is a benign and mild form of manipulation. But I think most things in our lives are manipulation. Like if my daughter comes to me and says, Daddy, can I have that, please, 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 please? Right? I know what she's doing. It doesn't mean I have a lot of defense against it, but she's trying to influence me, right? Using core drive 5 social influence and relatedness. And then if I say no, then she might use another core drive. She might say that, oh, well, then I'm gonna do something that is good for. I'll study harder, right? She'll try to go for core drive to development accomplishment and all that stuff. So and if you zoom out even more, generally saying please and thank you is a mild form of manipulation. I wasn't gonna do something for you, and then you said please. And when I did, you say thank you as an emotional reward later on, and I'm okay with it. I do it for you, right? Nothing about the transaction changed. You did not, offer me more money, right? You didn't pay me for more. You just showed more sincerity, and I agreed to do it. And most people, they don't have a problem with you manipulating people by saying please and being thank you. They actually expect that, right? And so it's same thing with gamification design. It's making people feel more appreciated. It's making people feel more accomplished, making people feel they're more creative. It's actually what they expect from an experience. Like they actually want this kind of feeling when they go in. And so the key thing is that whether you're trying to get people to do things they already want to do or they don't want to do. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to get people to go to the gym more often, eat healthily, be more creative at work, they actually like it. They want to be in that influence. But if you're just trying to get people to buy things they don't need or work overtime without proper compensation, then they'll start feeling upset and that's when they'll burn out and they'll leave. So so again, I'm not the authority on ethics,
Yeah.
but at least for myself, the moral standards I have for myself is two principles. Number one, opt-in, and number two, transparency. So opt-in means
Mm-hmm.
that you agree that I could try to influence and convince you to the desired behavior. So you don't have to agree
Mm-hmm.
to doing the action, but you agree that I can pitch you. So it's like you have a very
Mm-hmm.
charismatic friend who's trying to get you to go to a party, right? And so you opt in to say, hey, okay, you can tell me how great the party is. Like, yeah, everyone's going.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You have to go, right? You don't have to say yes, but you say, I can listen to your pitch.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is transparency, which is I know what you're trying to get me to do. So if I think you're trying to get me to go to a party, but you're actually trying to get me to do drugs, then there's no transparency, and that would, in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
be unethical. So, and if you look at a different industry, right, hypnotism, it
Mm-hmm.
actually supposedly is more manipulative, right? It's like full compliance. They basically
Yeah.
mind control, it seems. But people are okay with it because it does follow these two principles. There's opt-in. I agree, you can
And
hypnotize me. And then two, there's transparency. I know what you're trying to get me to do. You're trying to uncover things in my past as hopefully not making me do stupid things on stage, right?
mm-hmm.
So that's the principle I follow myself. But everyone out
Yeah.
there, I think they should have their own moral standards, and whatever they do, just do what in their heart is right.
Yeah, I think it's such a like complex topic. I don't think we as society figured out it at all. Like, you go to a store and you get certain things at your eye level, manipulation, influence, but is it in in your best interest? I don't know. Like, and who knows, like, what drives me or somebody else and what's their desires. Or you take Amazon one click, right? Do I always want to make it easy to buy stuff? But you're right. At least, when you go there, you are there to buy. So it's not like,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Recently, I was talking to a student, and she was saying that I was telling her that school also makes you believe in things of their own agenda, right? Or the
mhm.
school board's agenda. She's
Yeah.
like, no, it's like it's all free thinking. It's like, well, you have to choose the multiple choice, right? And she's like,
Hmm.
well, look, we can. Oh, just like YouTube, also, right? I can choose what I want to watch. And I said, well, but they serve you what's in front of you. It's a
Yeah.
multiple choice, right? So she thought like, well, I can choose to look at the ones I like, or I can decide what to think. But the school or the YouTube still decides the options you can select,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
can't think unless you very proactively write something different on the site, or you search for something. If you just go to the
Mm.
homepage, it gives you 16 options, and you think you're making a choice, but YouTube decided what are the 16 options you're looking at.
Yeah.
And that's a form of manipulation. You don't know what they're not showing you.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say, like, when I work with clients, we work on influence, they always say, but isn't that manipulation? I'm like, you're always influencing and manipulating. You just sometimes, like, often don't think about that. Whether you're talking, I don't know, to your partner, to your mom, to your kid, when you say, these are the foods we're eating, these are the choices, that's just a form of influence. Or when you propose certain choices to your client. And I guess it's just when you check in with yourself, okay, am I transparent? Do I have the other person's interest in mind? And it's also sadly, but obviously not everyone gonna have your best interest in mind, but that's the nature of our world. Yes, complex issue, but I guess as humanity, I see my um, ideal version of the world is when we care about our well-being collectively, and so we don't just make influence things in our interest, but also think of the other side and of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, there's quite a variety of clients that I've turned them down when they want to work with me. And many of them are, let's say, related to online gambling or
Hmm.
tobacco use or alcohol use. And I tell people it's not like I'm judging people's lifestyle, but when I look at my own impact, if I was very, very successful and a lot more people were addicted to these things, I just don't want that to be, my impact in the world.
Yeah.
So, so I just decide that I don't want to help them because I don't feel good about it. But, if some other people might feel good about it, this, and like I said, I'm not the authority on morality.
Yeah, yeah, neither of us, I think. Um, so thank you, Yukai, for sharing all these, practical tools and where gamification is and what it does and what it did, for your clients and for you personally. Let's talk about future. Where do you see gamification going? What's your ideal vision? And yeah, maybe just some trends. Where do you see it all going, like as a set of principles of design?
Yeah, I think gamification is becoming more and more depth, and I see that even in my line of work over the past 6 to 12 months, where of course I started very very early, right? I started
Yeah.
2003, and in 2012 is when I started more evangelizing for it and doing more consulting. But in the last 6 to 12 months, I see more companies showing up to me in different industries, different countries. They said, "Oh, now everyone's talking about gamification, so we should talk." And I'm like, really? Is everyone talking about it? I don't see that, but I'm glad you see it, right? And so I see this having interest, and I believe this is going to be the future because there are two angles that want it. Consumers want it more because this is a generation that grew up having all this A core drives in their experience already. All the games they're playing,
Hmm.
their school system, it's all about positive motivation. Learning should be fun. Classes are gamified. And so if they interact with a brand that's just very dull and boring, they don't want to buy from you. If
Yeah.
you're a training partner, you're a company, and it's just just work hard with discipline and suffer through the pain. They're not going to do it because there's going to be other companies that says, "Hey, every day you're working with us, it's like playing, it's like having fun."
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're of course going to join them, right? So from a consumer side, they're going to want to do that, and from the companies, because of it, they will have to apply gamification to attract the right talents to grow as a business. And I think
Hmm.
right now, I think the next 2 years, if you use gamification, I think it's still going to be a competitive advantage. I think in 3 to 5 years, if you do it, you're just basically like catching up with the industry, not falling
Mm.
behind. And I think 5 years later, companies will start applying gamification just to not be like become dinosaurs that's eliminated,
Yeah.
and for their survival. And of course, it's much better to do something when it gives you a competitive edge and can build that into something more amazing, as opposed to only doing it when you're struggling for survival.
Yeah, even now, you mentioned workplace. Like they say, it's the engagement is lowest as it was, and companies are struggling to engage talent and attract the right talent. And I feel like gamification has a lot of answers when it comes to that, to attracting talent, engaging people, and getting the results that the company want to see.
Yeah, we have some amazing case studies, and one of them, I don't know if we have time to go through details, but and actually that one is great because it's actually a student of mine that did it, not just not me, but the student of mine has most of the credit, and this is why people should be learning this. They helped the second largest public bank in Brazil
I
increase their
know, a funny
income.
fire.
Yeah, yeah, Funny Fire. Yeah, Ricardo from Funny Fire. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're the one that helped Caixa Econômica Federal increase $1.06 billion in recurring income, not revenue, but recurring income. And because of that, Caixa went from the second largest public bank to the number one public bank at the time. So again, you do gamification and you get an extra billion US dollar in value, right? And you get from number two to number
Yeah.
one. It's huge. It's
Yeah.
that's huge impact, and I wish more and more companies will do that, and I wish more and more people who study my work can also do that with their companies.
Yeah, it's like, the difference, like the companies always want to grow their bottom line, their profits, their market share, etc. But at the end of the day, it's how you motivate people to give their best. That's going to affect all the other results. And when you're able to do that, to drive people's motivation, to drive them to do their best, that's how you get to be number one, right? And especially if you can do it
Yes.
that consistently. So it's like also for
Absolutely.
me the difference between your worst day when you're like not motivated to do anything and your best day when you're like, I'm on fire, I just want to do it. And everyone can relate that to what they can accomplish on their best days compared to yeah, that's a good day. So such a great example. I wanted to ask, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, about gamification and AI, where, because everyone is talking about AI these days, right? How did your work change? How do you see the field of gamification changing because of AI?
Yeah, so I think right now AI affects gamification in the two sides, the input and the output. So the input is when people are designing for gamification solutions, they can ask AI to help them brainstorm, even ask the AI to use the 8 core drives of Palaces to help them brainstorm to solve different problems. So, it's like, and it's like, well, which core drive should I use? What are the ideas for this
Mm-hmm.
core drive? And I think the AI still needs some time to get better and better because, right now how the AI learns is it learns what is common out there in the world and it,
Mm-hmm.
takes an average. So in general, what it does, it reproduces mediocrity, right? It's everyone's average
Yeah.
solutions. But I think if you keep challenges that, hey, no, this is not good. Why would it be this? This should be better this way. Why should it shouldn't be so black hat? It should be right brain and white hat because it's the end game phase. Then it'll start giving you better and better answers. So I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
input side. Now the output side is that now we can give a lot more field mechanics that are dynamic. So when people do a desired behavior, what we call is they reach a
Mm-hmm.
win state. And most of the time it's like it's always the same copy paste, like congratulations, you win. Congratulations, you win. It's the same one. But with AI, it could always be different. It could be, hey, this is a custom Wednesday moment that takes into consideration
Yeah.
all the activity you've done before, and it tells, and they know right now, do you want to feel socially appreciated, or do you want to feel like, wow, you're amazing? Or some people at that moment, what they want is, hey, don't think that's so amazing. It's you're still
Mm-hmm.
far away from being an amazing, powerful character, right? And challenge like I like, oh, what do you mean that I'm far away? I'm gonna work even
Yeah.
harder, right? So everyone needs something different. So the AI could actually know exactly what do you need, what is that epic minion calling message that will motivate you and pump you up the most, and it will really
Mm-hmm.
change that feed mechanics and rewards and trigger kind of cycle. So I think that's something that's interesting in terms of having a almost
Mm-hmm.
like a dynamic smart person that is encouraging you throughout the whole journey.
Yeah, pushing your buttons, the ones that you need to be pushed in a very
Yeah.
personalized way. Yeah, my
Yes.
like ChatGPT sends me this notifications every day to work on my business based on our history of communication. So that's, definitely when I get a notification on my phone, like, I gotta, do the work today. And then it's starts like, oh, reach out to 3 people, let's boost those sales. Yeah, that kind of really cool. That's how I'm gamifying my business journey these days. Thank you, Kai, for like sharing again all this practical wisdom to motivate ourselves, to motivate people in our companies, and lead to the desired outcomes while having fun and enjoying ourselves. I think the last, couple of questions around your work and how people can learn and apply um, your work into their lives, whether professionally or personally. Like you wrote 2 books, well, as far as I know, the ones that I read, of actionable gamification, and the latest one, 10 hours of play. Which one would you suggest people start if they want to learn how to apply gamification principles with that life or work?
Yeah, so it depends on what they're focused on. If they have a project, they want to
Yeah.
apply gamification design to improve their product, motivate their sales teams, whatnot. The first book, Actionable Gamification, is still the best bet to go. Sold over 100,000 copies. It
Mm-hmm.
teaches the 8 core drives that we covered in this call.
Yeah.
But if they're not sure, if they don't have an immediate project, but they just want their lives to be better, they want to have a gamified life, they want
Mm-hmm.
to turn their life into a game and achieve what we call the legendary success in life,
Yeah.
and have fun doing it. And the second book, 10,000 Hours of Play, would be the good book to check out.
Yeah. And where should people go to find your books, buy them?
Yeah. So the easiest way to find everything I'm doing is on my website,
Website. Okay.
yukaicharou.com. If you
Yeah, we're
search
gonna link
for,
it.
yeah, if you forget, you go to gamification, you go to Google and you search for gamification expert, gamification framework. It should be, the top one
Yeah,
or
easy
two
to find.
organic results. But they're also on Amazon.com. And so
Hmm.
Amazon, I believe you search gamification. My first book is the first result, depending on region, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
And then, again, if you search my name, Yu-Kai Chou on Amazon, you'll find both books too.
Yeah. Where would you want people to go though, like to start their journey? I know you also have your 14-day course that I'm actually going through right now, getting your emails. Is that the place to start, or you prefer people to read your books, maybe watch your TED Talk? Where would you like people to start the
Yes.
journey?
So I think yukaichat.com is the best because it's the hub
Mm.
of everything I'm doing. So then people can decide, hey, I want to check out the TEDx or do the email course or read the book or
Mm.
join Palace's Prime, which has, over 1,000 videos
Yeah.
of my highest level work. It's up to them. And also, if I write more books in the future, I have more projects, all this stuff, that will continuously be updated. So I think yukaichat.com is the best starting point of the journey.
Um, cool. So we're gonna make sure to link all of that in the show notes. A couple of last things I want you to, yeah, to think about. One thought or insight that you'd like listeners to take away, if there was nothing else but like this insight, what would you like people to remember?
I think the main insight is what we call human focused design over function focused design,
Oh,
which
I
is
love that.
basically, yeah, which is basically whenever you think about motivating people, including yourself, don't optimize on efficiency,
Hmm.
optimize on their human drives, why they want to do it. Because most things out there, they assume people already have motivation and it makes it easy, usable, and intuitive, but people might not care at all. Whereas human focused design assumes that no one has motivation at this point, and everything they see
Hmm.
is about making them wanting to do it a bit more, making them feel curious, making them feel creative or
Hmm.
higher meaning and purpose. So if you assume that you're just like a game, before they start playing, no one cares about anything in the game. How do you make them care on every step? So don't assume people have motivation. You want to be human focused.
Yeah, make people care. It's like, with the AI. Companies are trying, well, let me give my people every bit of technology when they will use it. Yeah, if they don't care, they won't. So, so
Yeah.
such an important insight. Love it. And I saw it somewhere on your Instagram and then like reposted it. I'm like, yeah, that's gold. And another question, what one action you'd like people to take to feel the effects of gamification in their life? Like if there is one thing they do differently to, again, feel the benefits of it that they can start getting, like what would that be?
Mm, I think the first thing that people could do is have some extra core drive 7 unpredictability and curiosity in their lives. So
Hmm.
either the task they do or the rewards they would give themselves afterwards, write down a reward schedule attached to a dice or two dice. Um, and just you roll the dice to see what are the
Yeah.
activities you do. And then when you finish, it's like you roll the dice, see, okay, what is the reward? Take a break, play a game, or eat some candy, or whatever it is. I think this is an easy way to first get you in the mindset of thinking like a designer, right?
Mhm.
Like you're designing your behavior and activity, and it's a easy, fast way with no technology. Just I think getting a dice is pretty easy, and I think that may or may not, depending on how you design it, solve your problems. But I think that's a great way to start you on the journey to start experimenting more and adding more of those 8 core drives into your experience. Later, you can find a game master, which is a friend that helps you motivate yourself on activities, right? And then you can start recording how you do things. So it grows from there, but you want to start
Yeah.
somewhere. And the first step level 1 should always be very easy. So that's my level
Hmm.
1 suggestion.
Yeah, that's an amazing suggestion. I also read somewhere in the book like workplace studies where they gave people rewards on sort of predictable schedule, and then the other group was getting rewards on unpredictable, and they were different, and they never knew. So the variable rewards system worked a lot better. So that
Yeah.
curiosity and predictability.
Unpredictability creates more excitement, but okay, caveat. if it's attached to small bursts of activity, low commitments.
Hmm.
If you do something very easy and you pull a slot machine bar, it's fun. You do something easy, but if you have to do something for 9 months and then you get to see what you win, then you're like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna win,
Okay.
so maybe it's not worth it. So I don't want to even do it
Yes.
because I don't know what the reward
Yeah.
is. So you want to make sure the task that you're thinking about is a short one that you can complete in a short amount of time.
Yeah, human psychology is complicated. That's another insight. But again, Yukai, thank you so much for so much wisdom, information into human motivation and design for human motivation and human focused design and how we can create better world when we learn how to push our own buttons. I highly suggest listeners to check out your website, find all of your work there, like Google you, you're so easily findable. And then, yes, apply all these principles to make what listeners want to do fun so they create epic life journey and better world while doing that. So thank you, Kai. So appreciate you and your work and your
Thank
time.
you. I appreciate your work and your time too.